Cold. Ready.
Everybody's okay? I can bang the thing. All right. Please don't tell me you were doing that. Very chatty bunch. Meeting of the National School District Governing Board is called to order. This is a special meeting of the Governing Board. Normally we don't need to or have to stream special meetings, but this one is again regarding our LCAP and our budget, and they are important to us. We've gone through a lot of steps in order to meet the requirements of the LCAP. Thank you, Dr. Kraft. And the steps for the budget, especially as we're looking at tightening belts. So thank you, Dr. Burke. Thank you to both of your teams. And that is why this meeting is being held tonight specifically, and also why we are streaming, because it is too important to our community. We are reconvening to open session. Would you please stand with me for the pledge of allegiance? And over your heart, ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Would you please take roll call?
Ms. Sarmiento?
Present.
Ms. Avalos? Ms. Benford Castañeda?
Present.
Ms. Barrera?
Present.
Ms. Pico?
Present. Item 5 is public communications. Public communication provides the public with an opportunity to address the board regarding an item on the agenda or other topic. Anyone wishing to address the board shall submit a request for oral communications card. Cards are available near the entrance to the boardroom and are to be submitted to the recording secretary. A member of the public who wishes to address the board on any such matter is limited to 3 minutes for one matter, up to a maximum of 5 minutes for all closed and open session matters. There shall be a limit of 20 minutes for any matter unless such time limit is waived by a majority vote of the board. Members of the public may not yield any time to other speakers. No board action can be taken. Do we have any public communication? No. Thank you. Item 6 is the agenda. Item 6A, to accept the agenda. Do I have a motion? Motion to approve?
Second.
All right. Do we have any discussion? Okay. I have a motion to accept the agenda by trustee Bencourt Castaneda and a second by trustee Sarmiento. Please vote. Thank you. Item 7 is educational services. 7A is the California Dashboard, local indicators for the National School District. Results of the local indicators must be a part of a non-consent item in conjunction with the adoption of the Local Control Accountability Plan, otherwise known as the LCAP. The LCAP must be adopted on or before July 1st of each year. Dr. Kraft.
Yes, you will see on the attachment, it is the state board adopted self-reflection tool. This is when, should the board approve this document this evening, we will be submitting it because it does need to be approved at the time of the LCAP and submitted to the state prior to July 1st.
And this we received at the last board meeting, correct?
Oh, yes, it just has to be presented. It's informational, and it's attached to the board item.
Okay. So this is the Dr. Braden.
Yes, this is the first time the board is seeing this document, and it is not for approval, but it needs to be on the agenda before you approve the LCAP so that you can see how we rated ourselves on our local indicators.
Thank you.
Yes, it's in an email. Could we present it, maybe, would it be helpful if Dr. Kraft walked the board through
That
it?
would be great. Thank you.
Okay.
It was an attachment.
I apologize. I did not think to print it.
No, they're not.
Thank you. We have it. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so this is just a summation of the state board approved document that is required to be presented to the board for the local indicators. What are the local indicators? Why do we have it? There are components of the LCFF program. There are priorities the state sets that are not measured by state standards. And so in meeting the obligations of LCFF as well as the ESSA, Every Student Succeeds Act, we need to, as a district, determine what are means by which we measure the local indicators and report that in the template that you have attached to the board. And of course, it must be presented in shared in a non-consent item to the board, the information as well as the template. So these are the priority indicators. There are 8 total for the state that affect our district, and these are the priorities that are reported under local indicators. In the LCAP, as you'll see, you'll see in the LCAP that the other indicators are accounted for in the metrics as well as in the goals. So I'll go over them. Priority indicator 1 is really looking at appropriately assigned teachers, access to the curriculum, and our facilities. And these are measured by, and meeting these goals by the Williams visits, as well as continuing to look into our HR protocols and programming to ensure that our teachers are appropriately credentialed for the subject areas they teach. We have our Williams visits, as I said, and we have 3 schools this year, El Trino, Ira, and Rancho, to ensure that every student has sufficiency and access to materials. In addition to those Williams reports, they also go out to ensure that the facilities meet the requirement. And this came out of a legislative, a lawsuit, and that became set as legislation called Williams. And in meeting those, we have met this local indicator. Priority 2 really looks like at the implementation of the state academic standards. And this is also in the LCAP, and it does get measured by our SBAC, but we're also looking in our own materials adoptions. And so every year we do present to the board our instructional materials list and for adoption. And so, and what has been implemented. It's not enough to just have the materials. We actually need to see them in the classroom and being implemented. And so we have full implementation of ELA, ELD, and math. Those have been areas we've really been targeting over the last few years with our curriculum. We are in the process of moving into next generation science standards. And in the horizon, we're going to be looking at the guidelines with our health standards as well as our history and social studies standards. Priority 3, parent and family engagement. We really focused on increasing our family engagement opportunities this year. We've had expanded opportunities across the districts with science nights, literacy mornings where we have reading with parents, math nights, back to school house, open house, coffee with the principal, and of course our leadership team, school site council, ELAC, and DPAC, as well as our community events like the fall festivals. So these opportunities also allow us to build further connections, engage students in school and school culture. So we've also provided opportunities for learning sessions in a critical content area for critical target groups. And then, of course, making sure that our parents always feel that they can have those conversations with our teachers all the time, but formally when we have our parent-teacher conferences. Decision-making and getting input is a very important component of the LCFF, as well as a value that we at National School District hold dearly. And so in moving towards meeting these requirements, as well as the LCAP and the federal addendum and all those aspects, we do go through all of our engagement groups to ensure that we get input and reflection on draft plans, proposed plans, ways we're going to spend our money. And then we also make sure we've got our staff involved with certificated as well as classified roundtable. We do have our special education parent forum and English learner forums. Priority 6, school climate. National School District, we get this data from the California Healthy Kids Survey. This is a metric that all districts are required to use. One of the key pieces that we look at is how do our students feel. And we have about 65% of our students feeling a connection. More than engagement, a connection with school. 80% of them believe that our teachers and our administrators have very high expectations of them and believe that they can. And 76% of the students feel motivated to learn, and that seems to go hand in hand. What we do see are some factors that continue to move us as we continue to improve everything that we do so that we best serve our kids. We do feel that we see that 81% of Asian American population students feel safe at school, and that which is great, but 52 to 67% of the other groups, there's a discrepancy. So we want to explore that. But we do see that 74% of our students, both genders, feel that they have access to social and emotional support. And we've been seeing that growing with our MTSS system that we've implemented that's integrated, okay? So one of the things that we look at in addressing this is making sure that we are constantly reflecting on our practices. This year, for example, our counselors sat down and they put a much more cohesive scope and sequence aligned to the CASEL standards to ensure that in Tier 1 and in Tier 2, we are truly addressing the diversity of our student population. We do have discussion groups, data discussion groups at our schools, and we're really looking at school site data, and we do closely monitor the California Healthy Kids Survey data every year. And this year, I'm proud to say that Ms. Garcia was determined to get a really large response, and we got a really, since COVID, it's been rather low, but we've got probably about an 80% return on it. We've got the largest response that we've had in a long time. Priority 7, access to a broad course of study. In this case, one of the key features is that we always ensure and support that all students have access to grade level standards, because that's what they're held accountable for, and that we provide means by which our teachers can differentiate instruction. In the next year, we will continue our focus on science and going deeper and tying that across with ELD and writing, because things aren't in silo, they're integrated. We did get input from our teachers about wanting a refresher course on our curriculums. We've had, a movement in our teaching group. Some enjoyed that whole retirement piece and moved on. And so we are taking that into consideration. We'll be implementing that at the beginning of this year, actually. And then people want a refresher on the training of our social emotional curriculum. Another point here that we've evaluated, broadened in this broad course of study, is really looking at our San Diego workforce priorities, our workforce pathways in our what we would call electives. We're calling them electives, with our engineering, our computer science, our theater, our visual arts, our music, our animation. All of those components directly lead to either CTE a career technical education pathway, or alignment to a current San Diego workforce priority. Of course, I can't tell you if that will be a priority then, but it's good to start engaging and start causing that thought pattern to happen in kids and get their interest early. So as I shared, the LCFF priorities are embedded within the LCAP and integrated and aligned. We do have the LEA reflections on the 5 priorities. Those are those local indicators that don't have state level data. That's that document. And that information is public because this is a public meeting. And once we submit that, the state will take that information, review it, and it'll become part of our California dashboard for the 2024 school year, which we will probably see the results around December. Any questions?
Just a bit clarifying, so the reason that 4 and 5 and 8 are not on here is because they are covered by state level.
We have, yeah, the local indicators. There's crossover, there's more crossover in the LCAP, so you'll see the California Healthy Kids Survey. You'll see that sprinkled throughout the LCAP because it is a state measure, even though it kind of crosses here, but it's not identified as much of a local measure because there's no state measure to determine parent engagement. But as you know, we have a goal in the LCAP for parent empowerment, and we have metrics in there.
Just for clarification.
Uh-huh.
Trustee Lizarraga.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Craft, for providing this. Just on the slide of you put priority number 3, parent and family engagement. I think you missed a lot of information there. And I listed some of them, but I know we do more than that.
Oh, yes.
Superintendent parent roundtable, LCAP town halls,
Mhm.
employee and volunteer recognition of the month, the board meetings, book fairs,
Mhm.
Video Across America,
Mhm.
board student and volunteer presentations here. We have Taco Tuesday. That builds capacity,
Yes.
you know, but coffee executive.
Oh, yeah, executive
At
cabinet.
school,
Mhm.
executive cabinet at school, that creates
Mhm.
an opening space to them to speak up. And I cannot think any other more, but we do more than that. And I'm gonna give you a PTA conversation.
Oh, yeah, PTA,
Yes.
I'm starting to be thinking.
I'm
yeah,
glad
these-
that I catch all of that while you were speaking, because I
Yes.
know we do more than the one you listed, and I'm very grateful for that, because that creates an open space, and shout out to the ideas.
Mhm.
And you always, and I'm not even speaking about the approach and when somebody call you on the phone and you rapidly respond. This is something that we can highlight too. So, and the other side, I'm concerned about, not concerned, but in the priority number 6 about climate, school climate, in regards to the California Healthy Kids survey. I know it's a survey. My question is how the kids are, the questions of that survey is catered through little ones to big ones. What's the age group that they're questioned about the survey? Or what, can you give me an example of
Mhm.
what question?
So the survey's given out annually. We actually, and I can provide the board some of the sample questions. But it's given out annually from the state. It does target, in our case, 5th graders, parents, students, as well as teachers. And then they take all 3 of those reportings and provide you information. And what you want to kind of see is somewhat of an alignment. So what a teacher says, what a parent says, and what a student says, so that, you know, if a student is reporting that they don't feel motivated, but the teacher says they're super motivated and their parent says that, then there's something that we need to explore.
Yes, thank you.
Mhm.
There's no other beautiful way to get information but surveys. Honestly, I don't like surveys, but they're super crucial, necessary to do data-driven decisions.
Yeah.
But if the parents are being surveyed and there's, and included in there how many people respond versus how many people has to respond. So it's a big difference there to be able to quantitate this type of decisions in school climate. So I don't know, I didn't know that parents were surveyed. I know somehow it's a survey at the end of the year, but do you do a follow-up and how we reflect that in the school climate?
So we start sending it out early and we want 100% return.
Okay.
So we did have a dip during COVID. And we've had to rebuild that up. And so we've had a very high return this year. I want to say it was about 85% collectively. Some schools were 100%, some were a little bit shy, but we got a very high return vote from all three of the sectors. And I agree that surveys, because sometimes we can get over surveyed, but what it is it's a very doable way for people to give you their time. But it's not just the survey that we use here. We also have internal metrics that we use for our social emotional learning. Our counselors do more formative pieces. We do, when we have our special education nights, we always ask for feedback. We're always asking for feedback. I, of course, send out feedback to parents as well as to teachers so that we're getting multiple data points to help make those decisions.
Sure. And last but not least, that was my final question and thought. If there's any way, because you've been speaking about metric and dashboards, I know from after the pandemic we suffer academic loss and we're still struggling with that, especially on the more vulnerable population of students, which is the kids with special ed with more learning disabilities. Is there any way that we can have like a I don't know, a slide that shows how we're there after we come back in person now, and how's the progress measured towards, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3. I don't know if that's going to be something feasible that we can see, because there's some growth and we're still suffering the consequences now with implementing fully like a fight against academic loss, and sometimes we get progress and either we can see that reflected on, I don't know, maybe a percentage, maybe a growth, maybe a bar, maybe a statistic that we can see on scale. So I don't know if we can do that in the future, because that's something to highlight, because the teachers and the students have been working very hard, and we need to encase that they're doing a lot of progress until now, and it shows until now, because we provided with all the mental support that we can get. We got counselors, we got behavioral interventions, and so that's something we highlighted too, but we have to.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of internal data. We have Opera, which is a kind of a data crunching dashboard that allows us to see, for example, actually you've seen some of the documents and the data being shared by the counselors where they showed you behavior incidences in the playground versus inside, and then how we've been trending downward with some of the pieces. So we use a lot of that data to make our decisions. But yes, I can share, and I'm in agreement with you. I think, kind of on a more formal level, zooming out a little bit, we do have a story that's told every year when we take the state test, and the story really only targets the characters that met or exceed, and it forgets kind of all the other stuff that's happening. And I think what you are alluding to is that there's a bunch of themes and a bunch of actions and a lot of great things happening, but we don't illuminate them because we're looking at that single story of that percentage. And this year, when we've been seeing that other piece that you've been seeing, you talking about, kids coming out of the bottom end, and it's not getting reported, but we're watching it. So yes, we'd be very happy to bring that to you. Once the state data is finalized and we've kind of been able to do that, we'd be happy to bring you that information.
Thank you. Not just to report a company about for our own knowledge,
Our
we're
own,
moving in the right direction. That's what my intention from that. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Trustee Bettencourt Castaneda.
Thank you. I'm excited to hear all of the conversation, but I wanted to also bring up the all the stuff that we're doing with our parents. Because as you know, I've always been a push for parent involvement. Trustee Zaraga was mentioning about data and the historical information about our student progress, and I wanted to ask if you can also provide us some data in regards to the comparison about our involvement of parents and going back a little bit, because I know initially when I was first on board, it was very minimal. And that was something that I was concerned about, and now the list. And as she mentioned, that we can't list them all because we can go on and on. And, Dr. Brady stated the district is not even listed here, and how she got so many people connected. And there's just so many things that we can list, but I wanted to see how you can connect that, on how we've gone and how we've achieved so much in terms of parent involvement. So do you have any type of history or data that where we've achieved so much involvement from, you have one parent involved in LCAP, or you have one parent in your meetings, to now we have how many parents in attending your meetings? Because I know that we have sometimes packed houses and where it's standing room only, and so on and so forth, you know what I mean?
I do.
It's important for us to know, and it's important for our community to know that we have parent involvement. It's important for our parents to be involved. It's important for our children to know that our parents are there for their support, and it's that partnership that it's making our children know that their education is valued and is an important part of their growth and so on.
Yes, we do have that data. So there was a break for a few years, but we do collect the data. We collect, and then it's rudimentary. We count, people, and then we also count offerings. So, UC, SD, parent, university. You're making me start thinking about those. And so we do collect those pieces, and our parent engagement district resource teacher keeps all that data, and she provides it for me because it helps me with reporting for the LCAP, but I can crunch those numbers and put it in the board memo, or provide a little report for the board.
But
You'd like.
it's very eye-opening
Mhm.
to know that we have so much, we've come a long way. So, thank you.
Thank you.
It's possible that we might want to see a presentation, because the various things that you offer and that are offered by others in the district, there's just a lot going on, from Dr. Kevin's human resource fairs, to Dr. Burke, and all the CNS outreach that does get done. And there are a lot of things going on. It would be good to
The community needs to see that.
to be reminded of that, if you all are able to.
That was great.
So I'm glad this is still up. I'm going to remind everybody, including myself, because, I look at some of these numbers and they actually kind of make me clench, because for all other groups between 52 and 67% feeling safe at school, that's never enough. And I think we all agree with that. And to disaggregate that data, I think could be important too. Are there groups specifically of students who don't feel safe?
Mhm.
Also, in what ways are they not feeling safe? Because there's a mix as research and reports come back to us on everything from, well, maybe they have somebody who's bullying them in class, and so that's why they don't feel safe at school, is there's one bully in their class who likes to pick on them. Okay, that is very real life for that one student. But we know from some of the research that even the fact that we have to do lockdown drills makes them feel less safe. And every time that we have to do a lockdown drill, which is meant for their safety and practice, it's a reminder of how ugly something can be. And so it is this nurturing time of our students that we have to handle to the best of our ability. But I think it would be important for us to follow up on some of those questions. Where are our students not feeling safe? And what is it for them that constitutes, I don't feel safe in this situation? Because is it the big issue of school is scary? Is it the small issue of, I don't like to go to the bathroom because there's the bathrooms, like there's always, did somebody see me go, like we have so many things.
Mhm.
And we, to the best of our ability, we need to be able to address them.
So when I spoke about the counseling work that was done, so some of the nuanced pieces that you spoke about for the individuals are done, obviously privately with the counseling and the psychologist team, but in the kind of the big tier one, what we did see is that we did identify where the most of that reporting, that's coming from chicks, but we saw a parallel in our own internal data around upper grade and really around emotional regulation. And so it's something that we are exploring. That was part of that scope and sequence, and then some targeted work around that age level, because it's very different than first grade and second grade, and what could be the root cause of some of those pieces. That is something that is on our horizon. That is one of the areas we are targeting next year.
Trustee DeSabriga?
Yeah, thank you. President Gates, that's what I was referring to the questioning. How often this or how complex is this survey? I don't know, we can come up with our own survey, will be ideal, right? But California has to do that. But how complex is that one, and how is catered to different needs, and who answered that survey?
So
And how often is revised? Because it's not the same prior COVID, during COVID, and after COVID.
right, they did change it. They did have a different one during COVID. The questions are they're factor loaded. They've been tested, and they're designed to get to the end result of the reporting. So they'll ask the student. The questions are very simple, but they're designed to tease out the information that we're seeking, and in this case, feeling safe at school. So there are a series. They actually reveal the questions. There's a series of questions. About 4 or 5 in each of the sections that the student answers, and they're designed for the student to to respond thoughtfully, but not to linger, because you want that the true response that comes out that generally is like your first response. Yeah, and so, but I believe I have access to I don't know if I have it for all schools, but I do have access to the 2024 data, and that is something that we can share with the board, but I can also just share the questions, and so you can understand a little bit about a flavor of what the students are getting asked, 5th grade, what the teachers getting asked, and what the parents are getting asked, and you can kind of see the parallel. The survey that I was talking to President Gates about is our internal social emotional survey that our students take twice a year.
Yeah, thank you.
Mhm.
Because we mentioned like several components of maybe not the wrong answer, but to identify some issues.
Mhm.
But we like a newcomer is not going to answer the same as a regular student. Harassing is not the same as awareness, acceptance. So that all those components are there
Mhm.
and they're real. So how do we measure that one to get those numbers out? Of course, we're going to see 100% feel safe at school, but those components affect the data and how we're going to move forward with that data.
Yeah.
So that's what the question is. Thank you.
Well, and one of the things that the CHIC survey doesn't do is if we only give it to 5th graders, it does not follow up.
Mhm.
And so we can't, we are only hitting this group of students at this one point.
Mhm.
But that's the way that California gives us the assessment, which is why the ones that we do are on our own can allow us to see, hopefully, growth over time, change over time, that we can't get through this one.
Mhm. Mhm.
I did want to point out, because you touched on this, Trustee DeSabriga, what growth looks like. And you know this, I'm not telling you something. But things that we don't often get reported on and that teachers I know and students wish that we would overall be able to see are things like when a child has moved from I won't sit down with a book at all
Mhm.
to sitting for 15 minutes and working through a book.
Mhm.
That is growth.
Mhm.
We don't assess that. A student learning their addition facts, yes, that will show up in a test, but that victory, we don't necessarily assess that and get a report on that. Being able as a sixth grader to write an effective thesis statement. We don't see those things, and those are the things that they get to celebrate in class, hopefully. And I know a lot of our teachers take the time to make sure that those things are celebrated. But growth looks like a lot of things when it comes to academics. And so I wish, because we assess, for instance, for whether they are meeting grade level. Well, if a student has actually moved, maybe they are in fourth grade, but they moved from first grade level reading, beginning of first grade level to middle of second grade level reading, and our tendency is to turn around and go, but they aren't reading the fourth grade level. They made a year and a half of growth, and somebody somewhere should be honoring that. So I appreciate the question of where are our other indicators that still honor the work that our students are doing and that our teachers are doing every day, even if those are not the indicators we get to use.
No, those are I won't say local, these are state, and I think it's good to probably look at these in terms of registers, right? So this is a register of reporting an assessment, but a lot of the pieces you're speaking of, we do collect that data and we do celebrate that, because it's exactly what I was sharing. There are all these other incidences of nobody was capturing the data of the reduction of incidences on the playground. We did. We celebrated it. And so some of it comes out of the work we do with PBIS, but I think our schools are very good about recognizing the achievements that our students do, even if they're out of standard, things that aren't necessarily heralded in terms of, reporting. And I think academics is one aspect. And so any educator knows that it is a comprehensive, all-consuming job that has so many layers and so many aspects and so many triumphs that I think, as long as the students feel that they have high expectations from adults, to me, those are indicators that they know that somebody's cheering for them. So.
Dr. Brady.
I just wanted to give the board a couple of examples of the California Healthy Kids Survey, and Dr. Kraft can get the 2024 report so you can see it in its entirety in all the different sections. But for example, there's a section for academic motivation, and overall you get a score. The average amount of students reporting yes most of the time or yes all of the time that they're motivated academically in school. For example, on this is 81%. This is not the current year, I'm just giving an example. Then the questions break down more specifically that make up that category. Do you finish all of your class assignments? And in this particular survey, none of the kids said no, never. So that's good news. Only 8% said yes some of the time. 46% said yes most of the time, and 46% said yes all of the time. Another example of a question in this category would be, do you keep working and working on your schoolwork until you get it right? And again, nobody said no, never. 26% said some of the time, 35% said most of the time, and 39% said all of the time. So in looking at that data with those two examples, each school would get that data and start to say, all right, well, students finish their work, but we probably have a little bit of work to do on when it gets harder and you're working on getting it right. How can we teach more perseverance? And then that's where the counselors would come in, and that's where we would start to work together to to help with those staying motivated through the entire assignment. And then again, it continues to disaggregate the questions that meet the overall category, and those specific questions help us tailor the different types of interventions we need to do, whether they be whole group, small group, individual, by grade level, by school. Okay.
Any other questions? Thank you very much, Dr. Cronin. Okay, item 7B is to approve National School District's 3-year 2024-2027 Local Control Accountability Plan, again, otherwise known as the LCAP. Do I have a motion?
I make a motion to approve.
I second the motion.
All right, Dr. Kraft? All right, this is what we saw. Yes. Okay, thank you. Do we have any questions from the board? Okay. I want to point out, this year, the state of California released a new template for the 2024-2025 LCAP and the start of a new 3-year cycle. As part of the requirements, each LCAP must be posted on the district website, consisting of 3 parts: the LCAP plan, the annual update, and budget overview for parents. All 3 parts must be posted at the same time that the district publishes the notice of public hearing for the proposed budget. On the original publication date of May 23rd, 2024 in the Union Tribune, San Diego County Office of Education noted that only the LCAP plan was posted to the district website. Therefore, to ensure full transparency, staff requested to delay the public hearing until June 17, 2024 to post the additional LCAP sections and republish the notice of public hearing for the proposed budget on June 14, 2024 in the Filipino Press. You all pursued that. That's one of our local papers, correct? Thank you. Upon approval by the governing board, the LCAP will be sent to the San Diego County Ed for final approval. The process for all of this started with parent surveys in January of this year and has continued through to presentation to the SELPA in June of this year. So there have been many steps along the way with many presentations and gathering of information. All right. We have a motion to approve by Trustee Avalos and a second by Trustee Lizarraga. Will you please vote? Thank you. Item 7C is to approve the National School District Local Control Accountability Plan Federal Addendum for the 2024-2025 school year. Do I have a motion?
I second the motion.
Dr. Kraft?
Just to remind the board, the federal addendum accompanies the local control accountability plan. It is a way to have school districts write one master district plan, integrating both federal and state requirements.
Do we have any questions? All right, I have a motion to approve by Trustee Betancourt Castaneda and a second by Trustee Avalos. Please vote. Item 8 is business services. Item 8A, to approve the estimated actual budget for 2023-2024 and adopt the 2024-2025 proposed budget for all funds. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve?
I second the motion.
Dr. Burke?
Both the 23-24 estimated actual budget and 24-25 proposed budget are as presented last week. No changes.
Thank you. Do we have any questions? Okay. I have a motion to approve the estimated actual budget for 2023-24 and to adopt the 2024-2025 proposed budget by trustee Bettencourt Castaneda with a second by trustee Avalos. Please vote.
Madam President, unanimously.
Item 8B is to adopt resolution number 23-24.47 to identify the amount of budget reductions needed by 2026-2027. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Dr. Berg?
Yes, this resolution is to show a balanced budget for 26-27. So it's in the out years. It's something that we must have a vote on to approve to show that we are aware of the budget challenges ahead so that we are acting responsible in the interim period. And I will remind the board that this number was over $9 million at the second interim period, but we actualized over $7 million in budget savings last year through discipline, through not hiring into vacancies. And now additionally, we have 12 teachers who have retired that we have not filled those positions, along with additional temporary teacher positions that have not been rehired. So that is the way that this resolution has moved down to $2 million now. It's a more manageable number. We will still have to be responsible and be aware and prepared for this in the future.
All right, do we have any questions?
I do.
Okay, trustee
And
Bezada.
just to mention and follow up in the recommendation action, this resolution also includes the 3 minimum reserve that we are having.
Very good. Yeah, thank you for that question. This resolution brings us, we're actually still in the black in the third year. This just gets us up to the 3% reserve. So we're actually above zero even in the third year, which is a pretty good spot to be California school districts at this point.
All right, thank you.
And the 3% we're speaking of is the required reserve amount to cover for basically emergency for payroll.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, it is the required amount. And this resolution guarantees that we will get there in 26-27.
Thank you. Any other questions? All right, I have a motion to approve resolution 23-24.47 by trustee Bettencourt Castaneda with a second by trustee Sarmiento. Please vote.
Madam President, unanimously.
Item 8C, to adopt resolution number 23-24.48 for the use of education protection account funds. Do I have a motion?
Make a motion to approve.
Dr. Burke?
Yes, I hate to use the word, but this one is kind of a hoop jump, wherein we have to acknowledge that where our funding comes from. And the Prop 30 tax that was put into place had this attachment, and we have to acknowledge that we are making expenditures that are coming from Prop 30 tax funds. So that's a tax on high income earners in California. So a portion of our funding comes from that population. And it does not increase our base funding or general fund in any way. It's just it makes up a part of the general fund.
Do we have any questions? All right, I have a motion to adopt resolution 23-24.48 by trustee Avalos with a second by trustee Bettencourt Castaneda. Please vote.
Madam President, unanimously.
All right, and with that, as this is a special board meeting, we have covered all business, so our meeting is adjourned.
Okay.